What's up, everyone? Welcome to the second episode of the Illinois Wrestler Podcast. Um, Today's podcast, we are going to dive into the senior division of the kids state tournament this year. Now, I was fishing around asking people who was in the know of the kids and who would have a good grasp on it, and I was told by a few different people that Jeremy Mack, um, knew what was going on in the middle school wrestling scene. So welcome to
Thank
the
you very much.
podcast. So is that fair to say you know a lot about the youth wrestling scene, specifically the middle school kids?
Yeah, I follow it. Obviously, my kids are in middle school, which is the draw to me to it. I know a lot of the families from like from all borders of the state, whether it be from duels, just competition, tournaments, etc.
I got you. Well, that's good. Yeah, duels. You see a lot of the kids who obviously do the off-season stuff, who
Yep.
train around, and those kids tend to have the most success. So, we recently put out your novice and senior division picks, who you thought was going to win. Um, and so, yeah, how do you feel about those just in general? Your chosen winners.
Uh, I know this when I do that, a lot of times it ruffles feathers. like, um, I know a lot of people want to hear their kids' names mentioned, and I get it. And in some cases, obviously, I love to be proven wrong. But for the most part, I try to keep it as non-biased as possible, and therefore, I think my predictions are usually pretty accurate, along with not only who should make the finals, who should place, but maybe even who could possibly upset those kids.
Yeah. Cool. Well, like, yeah, I think a lot of people want to see their kids um obviously picked, which is cool. And obviously, youth wrestling is so much random. There's so many matches that could go, it's only what, a minute and a half periods
Correct.
oftentimes. So a lot of chaos happens in kids wrestling. So the um I definitely love the idea or the opportunity to showcase and talk about some of the best kids, just so that as they go into the high school realm, people are aware of them. Obviously, sometimes you don't find out how good a kid is until the state tournament, where you know. I think we as a community should kind of have an idea of who's coming in and who to watch out for and stuff like that. So hopefully we can do that. Yeah. So you want to just jump into it? We're only going to go through the senior division brackets. If we do anything more, it will take too long, and we'll be here all day. So I
No
think
problem.
senior division's a good. It's a good group of kids that are going to graduate and get into the high school scene soon. So makes the most sense.
I agree.
All right. Well, you start us out. Boys senior 74 pounds.
74 pounds. I think there's two kids that stand out amongst all by far. Luckily, they're on separate ends of the bracket. That'd be Reese Babcock out of St. Charles and Carter Noonan out of Ottawa. Both are very familiar with each other. Both are friends. With, if I'm not mistaken, for the last 3 years, they've been in the same state bracket each year. Um, I apologize, the last 2 years. Um, Carter faced Reese in the finals 2 years ago, it was. And Carter has won state the last 2 years. So based on that fact, that's why I chose Carter. To be honest, though, this is a coin flip match. It wouldn't surprise me in the least bit if Reese was to come out on this. Both are great kids, very talented kids. Work very hard, do off season. Just great matchup there in the finals.
And do you have anybody else like potentially? Um, I know these individuals. I've seen these guys wrestle. I think I've seen them wrestle each other in practice before. So yeah, I know that they are very, very good.
Yeah, no disrespect to anybody else in the bracket, but I just think these two are just leaps and bounds above everybody.
Yeah. All right. Cool. Let's move on then. Let's go to
Okay.
next senior 79. What do you got there?
This was actually a tough one. I think the top two kids are on the in the bracket are actually on the top side with Whitehead and Crew Hatchell. Whitehead has the head-to-head matchup. That was the only deciding factor of why I went with Whitehead. Um, I think Whitehead has a clear path to the semis, whereas Crew, he'll have to go through Brady Myatt in the quarters. Um, I give the edge to Crew in that, though. Uh, Crew's faced on the bottom side, Liam Kassane from Tinley Park. Uh, Crew barely beat him at regionals, but kind of handled him a little more at sectionals. But that said, I think that was the best case for Liam because I don't see anybody on the bottom side really giving him much resistance making the path to the finals. But that's the logic in having Whitehead over Liam in the finals.
And who did you did now we didn't go over. I sorry, I didn't um go through it. Obviously your picks are already up. But you had Noonan as the victor, but you did say it could go both ways.
That could 100% go both ways. Like if no matter who wins that match, I think it's going to be a very close decision. I could see a one-score match, to be honest with you. Uh, and whoever wins it would not be an upset in any way.
Okay. Yeah. And then in 79 you move to choosing Cam Whitehead.
Correct. Like I think whoever wins with Crew and Whitehead, that's going to be your champion. And again, the reason I gave it to Cam is Cam has the head in the last year over Crew.
All right. Cool. All right, great. Now let's move on to senior 84. Um yeah, tell me what.
So this is actually a really good bracket here. In the quarters, you're going to have Coleman against Medina. You're also going to have Rice against Julian Medina on the top side of the bracket. On the bottom side of the bracket, you're going to have Traden Dietich against Carl Wiedner. Um, and then at the very bottom of the bracket, you're going to have Rocco Belvano, who lost to Hogan Rice in the sectionals this year. Um, in my opinion, Hogan is the is definitely the favorite. He's the front runner of this group. Um, he has victories basically over everybody. I don't know if he's seen Wiedner yet or not. Um, on the bottom side of the bracket, Dietich and Vilvano have faced each other before. Um, I believe Dietich pinned him at Joe Thal, but then in a more recent matchup, Vilvano has the victory over Traden. That's why I went with Vilvano there, just for the more recent win. Kind of if somebody kind of handles the other earlier in the year, and then not only do you close the gap, but actually win, you gotta give credit to that.
Yeah. Yeah, these are the weight classes too that there's so little wild scrambles can change the game real
Yes.
quick. Um,
But
there'll
for
be
that reason you just said though, like I think Hogan is probably the most technical of them all. And I think most people would agree with that.
yeah. Yeah, I've seen Hogan and Traden wrestle a lot, so um yeah, I would agree with that. So who do you have you think Hogan is the winner?
I do believe Hogan's the winner.
Okay. Well,
He's
good.
definitely the odds-on favorite.
Yeah, I look forward to seeing that play out.
I will say this: if Hogan, like I said, those quarters on the top side, those are all great matchups with Coleman, Lucas Medina, and then like I said, Hogan and Julian Medina. Like those are solid matches. Like it'll be interesting, but I gotta give it to Hogan.
Okay. So you're saying they could be nail biters.
Coleman and Medina will be very close. I think as well. I think Hogan and Julian. I think those are all decision matches. I don't see anybody um, majoring or attacking anybody, and I definitely don't see any pins being involved. On the bottom side, um, I think a lot of people aren't familiar with Carl Reedner. He's from down south. He does pose a problem to Dietich. I believe they meet in the quarters. But Vivano, I think he has a pretty clear path to the semis.
Okay. All right, moving on. Senior 90.
90 has some good kids here. You have Colton Schultz. He'll meet McNamara in the quarters. You have Klitschov, who's won state the last 2 years as well. Actually, Klitschov has beat Hogan Rice the last 2 years, both times. Same matchup in the finals. You have Bird also, who will face Klitschov in the quarters. On the bottom side, you have Landon Nair, Griffin Heaney, and Weston Frazier. Um, on the bottom side, I believe Nair is definitely the favorite on the bottom side. It's a shame because I think on the top side you have Colton Schultz, who I do believe wins the bracket. And like I said, Klitschroff, a two-time state champ. Klitschroff, and it would have been nice to see them on separate sides because I think those are the two best kids in the bracket, and that would be the consensus amongst everybody. I do give the edge to Colton.
Now, have you seen McNamara? Now, is that the son of Coach McNamara?
Yes, out of Edwardsville.
Yeah.
Yep.
Have you got to see him wrestle at all?
Yeah. So we're out of like my kids wrestle out of Bolingbrook. So like McNamara and Julian Medina, they've wrestled before. They've been in a lot of the same brackets. None of these kids are a stranger to the podium. So not only do I see them wrestle at state, but other tournaments as well.
Yeah. Well, I was just curious because I know how I know Pat McNamara and I know
Yep.
how skilled his technique is. So I was curious how the lineage is doing at with his son. I would assume he's going to be well trained. So I
Yeah.
know some kids get to the top a little faster in the middle school stuff, but I would
Yes, they
assume
do.
that he's well trained. So cool. All right. So you got now the Klitschkoff is you said the rumor the word on the street he's a Russian. He's from Russian descendant.
Correct. Yes, he is.
So is he's not straight out of Dagestan, is he? He's
He wrestles like it. I'm telling you, the
okay.
kid's very solid. Like if there was ever a kid that was the pick to possibly upset Colton, Eric's the kid. Some may even have Eric as the favorite. To be honest with you, like that's going to be a great match.
And
I
that's
think the difference in that, I think Colton's bigger. Both are extremely technical, very gifted wrestlers.
okay. And Near is the favorite on the bottom to get
Yeah,
through.
Landon Nair out of NWO, I think he definitely comes out of the bottom side of that.
Okay. All right, we'll see. And you have Schultz as the winner, so we'll see how that plays out.
Yep.
All right, boys 96, seniors 96.
96, I think on the bottom side, this was actually a tough call, to be honest with you. On the top side, you're going to have Carson West versus Ortiz in the quarters. Leland Nelson, I believe, out of Richmond. I think he has kind of a clear path to the semis. That said, I think West comes out on the top. Uh, on the bottom side, Nicholas Duarte against Obadiah Willis. Like this bracket could play out a lot of different ways. Um, if Willis wins it, there'd be no shock to that. Nicholas Duarte just beat Carson West in at sectionals. I believe it was a real close match. I believe one point separated the two. So anyone from Carson West, Nicholas Duarte, Obadiah Willis, anyone could win the bracket. Um, all very strong wrestlers. Have competed nationally at several events. I just gave the edge to Duarte because with the win over Carson West, even though it was a close one, that was a deciding factor in the decision making about who wins that bracket.
And so you have Carson West and Duarte in the finals?
I do, but if Willis was to make the finals and or win it, that would not be an upset in any way.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay. Yeah, and that Leland Nelson, he must be a sibling to the older Richmond Burton Nelson. So yeah, I starting to see some names I remember or have, there's lineage around there. All right. Any possible outliers that you see that could come out? I know. So, I'm from the north, right? So I'm
Right.
from that section that many people would, maybe overlook. And I was never ranked, I don't think, going into the state tournament. So I always remember being the forgotten, but I would always find a way to the podium. I was in the semis, I think 3 years. So yeah, uh, 2 or 3
Well,
years, one of the two.
and that's the best thing about state. Like at the end of the year, at the end of the day, regardless of how you did at regionals, sectionals, any prior matchups throughout the year, everyone's 0-0. No different than football, baseball, whatever. When you start the playoffs, you know what I mean? Like anything could happen.
Yeah,
I love when people prove me wrong. Don't get me wrong. Like I'm not out to hit this at 100% or nothing like that. Like I love wrestling. I love watching the kids. I love the sport. I love what it does for the kids. So like But we all know that at the end of the day, it comes down to who puts the work in, not only in season but off season as well.
Yeah, you just said that perfectly. All right, well, let's move on then. Senior 103.
103, I have Eddie Woody, again out of Edwardsville under McNamara. Trains a lot at Perler, great kid. I have him facing Brody Page in the semis. Brody's out of Yorkville. He wrestled Page actually won novice state last year. And on the bottom side, again, I want to point out like regionals and sectionals. It's crazy how brackets play out. So I have like in my predictions as far as who make the finals, I have Kane Robles. Uh, Kane got a really good draw, and but Kane's very talented. Don't get me wrong. So I want to start by saying that he's going to meet Santiago Trejo in the quarters. That'll be a real interesting matchup. I think whoever wins that, I think that's Kane's biggest threat as far as on the bottom side. Um, but when it's all said and done, again, no disrespect to any of these kids. Um, I believe Eddie Woody's on another level. Like he's the clear cut favorite here.
Okay. Yeah, and that takes me back to just the last weight class, or I don't know if it was last one or the one before about practice partners. You start to see some of these, where you can see that some kids are training with the best. So,
Yeah,
um,
I mean Eddie Woody. I think he's placed everywhere from like Super 32,
okay,
Tulsa. I mean top tier dual teams. I mean he's legit.
all right, so he's the real deal. All right, I'm looking forward to seeing him wrestle. And on the bottom, you think Kane Robles gets through?
Yeah, I think the one hurdle he has to get past is Trejo. They'll meet in the quarters. Real solid kid out of Corey Clark's wrestling club. Well trained. That'll be. I think that'll be a very close match. Reason I gave that to Kane. Uh, they're both
Well,
at
you're,
103. Pardon me.
and I was gonna say you're from Bolingbrook, right?
Correct.
So you got a little bit of a home team right here, right?
A little bit, but on the same note, they both wrestled at Joe Thalda in the same bracket. Kane come
Okay.
out. Kane, I don't believe Trejo placed in that, and Kane actually won that bracket. It was a solid bracket though. A few out of state kids came in that one, but again, I try to be as non-biased as possible. If it's
Yeah,
a
yeah, yeah.
50-50, got to go with the home people. But no, kidding aside though, I'd give that to Kane the edge.
Okay, great. All right, so uh, Robles, Eddie Woody, or yeah, Eddie Woody and Woody with the winner. All right,
Yep.
cool. Senior 110.
Uh, 110's a pretty solid weight. Actually, I think it's the second best weight in the senior division. You have in the what would be the second round, you're gonna have Zayden Mansfield that feeds into Lincoln Mack. I have that as a coin flip match. Then I believe you're gonna have Hermson that feeds into Griffin Kellett out of LaSalle, Peru. Um, I believe they wrestled earlier in this year with Kellett coming out on top. And then also on the top side of the bracket, you're going to have Isaiah Perez, Lincoln, and Zayden. I've known Zayden since he was, you know, 6, 7 years old. So he's further down south. Hermson from Toss him up. Uh, I give a slight edge to Griffin Kellett over Hermson. I believe they wrestled before, and again, it was a decision, I believe. Even though Lincoln and Mansfield never wrestled before, I think that's a real good match. But at the end of the day, um, like I said, with the exception of Lincoln, and only because they have never wrestled, Perez has beaten everybody that's on the top side of that bracket. Hence the reason I came with him making the finals. As far as the bottom side goes, I believe Ada McClure, he's again Tulsa champ, Reno placer and or runner up, the kickoff, et cetera, et cetera. Uh, very, very talented kid. I think the only person that could potentially, as polite as I can say this, I don't see anybody really pushing him in this bracket, to be honest with you. I just think he's that much better than everybody. Uh, the one kid in the entire bracket that, if there was going to keep it somewhat close, would be Adam Glosser. Uh, he's going to face Pedro Rangel from Storm in the quarters, but I don't think a lot of people are familiar with Glosser. He's very solid, but in comparison to McClure, I don't see him being able to hang with him.
Got it. Yeah, I mean, just from the outside in, well, historically, I've known a lot, and you know, in the middle school, there are always a group of 5 to 10 that separate themselves because
Correct.
they go to the Tulsa, they go to Reno, they go to all the national events that really give them a real competitive edge when it comes to big tournaments like this. You can't really get nervous if you've wrestled at the Reno Worlds or Tulsa. So yeah, big
Yeah,
advantage. So I believe that they're. So you're saying this is another kid that's just separated himself.
yeah, he's definitely separated. I don't think he's wrestled a single match in Illinois in 2 years, and does nothing but national level competition. So, um,
So he hasn't even wrestled in during the season. You don't have to have
not
a
in two
cer
years.
Do they not have like a requirement? I figured they would have a rule or something that says you have to wrestle like 5 matches or something.
Uh, not that no, not that I know of. It like whether it's
Oh,
the
that's
level of
good.
competition they seek,
Yeah.
or maybe they just don't want to tip their hat on the style. Like everyone has their own unique styles, and um, he has a grueling schedule, and I think it'll pay dividends in the state series.
All right, cool. McClure versus Perez. McClure on top. All right. Senior 118.
Senior 118. I think you're gonna have Jesse Sweeney come out. That feeds into Cade Vasquez, and then they'll meet Caden Campbell in the quarters. I give the edge to that entire top side to Caden Campbell. Uh, if someone was to beat him, I wouldn't call it like a massive upset, but I still think Caden Campbell is the best in that top side. Um, on the bottom side, you're going to have Axel Rodriguez, who won state last year, and right off the bat, he's gonna face Cainos. I don't know who wins. I know both families, so I'm gonna say it's. I think that's a very good matchup. The winner that's going to feed right into Max Marino out of Ottawa, um, and then they're going to make the semi. Like the winner of Marino versus the winner of Enos and Axel. Uh, they're going to make it right to the semis. On the bottom side of the bottom part of the bracket, you're going to have Rico Garcia, and then he's going to face Swartz. There's no doubt about that. That Swartz will be there in the quarters. Um, I don't think people might be able to keep it close with Swartz, but at the end of the day, I don't see anybody putting him in much danger. I think it's his bracket to lose.
Okay. So Campo, who do you got? Campo, Swartz in the finals. Swartz winning.
Yeah,
Um, and Vasquez, yeah, I would assume I'm taking a guess that he is related to the rest of the Vasquezes,
out
like
of
Montini.
Quayflex.
Yeah, out of Montini. I know Nine Vasquez. He's the oldest one that went to West Point. Um,
Correct.
but I forget his name. Who wrestled Josh Vasquez, who he got third at state this year, but then he beat the state champ um, in the dual meet. So yeah, I would assume you got older brothers, you're going to be pretty tough. So
Yeah,
so
it's a
you think
wrestling family.
yeah, so you think Campo gets to the finals.
I think Campbell gets it done, yes, but I
All
think
right.
he's going to come up short against Swartz.
All right. Cool. All right, senior 126. Now we're getting closer to some bigger kids that I've definitely worked with some of these guys, 126 specifically. Um, Charlie Connors, I wrestled with him a little bit. Um,
Great kid, great family as well. Great kid.
yeah. So what do you got in this weight class?
This is a great bracket. This is actually my favorite bracket in the. Oops, sorry about that.
No worries. Yeah, you're fine.
Okay. Uh, this is my favorite bracket in the entire tournament, to be honest with you. Um, as you said, Charlie Connors, very solid kid. You have Dauber out of Ottawa. He's going to feed into Wiedner. I don't think a lot of people are familiar with Wiedner. Very solid kid. I do give the edge to Dauber, but that can go either way. This bracket is so deep with possibilities. At the end of the day, styles make matchups. Like you could have person A beats B, B beats C, and C beats A, but that doesn't mean uh, C beats B. You know what I mean? It's polar opposites in all these styles here. But Dauber versus Wiedner, and then they're going to feed into Charlie Connors in the semis. Uh, Charlie Connors did himself a great favor by beating Sawyer Valdez at sectionals. Um, as far as, and not that he wouldn't fare well, like you can make an argument, like I said, for any kid in this bracket to come out on top. Um, but I do think Dauber gets past Wiedner. I could be wrong. Um, but I think Charlie Connors is too strong, a little bit too strong for Dauber. Um, but that will be a very close match, in my opinion, going into the in the semis. As far as on the bottom side of the bracket, on the flip side of that, you have Sawyer Valdez, who has been state runner-up 2 years ago, state placer last year. The reason I know that is actually both years he was in my son's bracket. Very solid kid out of Sycamore. Um, but on the downside of losing to Connors, I think he feeds right into Jack Hanrahan out of Arlington. Very solid wrestler. He has, as you know, my prediction to come out of this is Hanrahan. This is one bracket that I could have totally wrong because again, I think from top to bottom, it's the deepest, you know, and you have Vincent Konecki who beat Kane Dauber in sectionals this last weekend, but then lost to him the weekend prior. So that's how close this is. This is again very very good bracket. Um, he's gonna get hand or hand in the quarters. You have Skura that'll face Devin Ayler in the bottom. Ayler's a lot like McClure in the sense that I don't believe he's wrestled a single match in Illinois in 2 years. Again, nothing but national level competition. Um, Very tough kid. As far as in the semis, I don't want to say I'd be shocked, but I do have it hand in hand against Ayler. That is going to be a great match. Like it's polar opposite styles. You have the kids coming out of Arlington, Ayler out of Storm. Uh, I want to say that's a coin flip match. I give a slight edge to Hanrahan in that. Um, I think he's going to be able to slow down Ayler's offense, and but so I have that's how I came up with Hanrahan against Connors. Hanrahan and Connors have wrestled once, if not twice, this year. I believe at Joe Thal Midwest Classic, or at least Joe Thal. And I might be mixing up the two, so bear with me. But I believe he beat him 4-0, if memory serves. So it's not that. It's like I said, anybody can win this bracket.
Yeah, and I can't look it up right now, but I'm pretty sure Charlie did win one of those big tournaments, whether it's Jolthol or Midwest. I don't
I think he
know.
made the finals.
Did he get second?
I think he took second, losing a decision to Mason Swartz, who was at 118.
All right.
And then I believe he went up to 26 for the other one. I think that's where he ran into Jack Hanrahan.
All right. Well, yeah, he did. I think he lose to the Sycamore kid too, possibly earlier in a couple weeks ago. He lost to him first. He lost to somebody. I watched a match, but this is again these matches. You lose once and it's like a takedown at the end of the third period, and
Yep,
the small circles. One thing I still think that tournaments with all eighth graders should be big circles. I don't even
yep,
think that you should allow little circles, but again, that's a rabbit hole of other conversation around tournaments and stuff like that. But a lot of these situations change based on, again, you're going to get a full circle. You're going to get a ref that's paying attention. So there's a lot of stuff that could transpire. So all right, so you have Connors versus Hannaran, and Hannaran winning. All right,
correct.
well, we'll see.
That's the one that the bracket could be way off. Like I said,
Well,
that's a very talented group.
I hope you're off just for Connors. I hope Connors can get it done. All right, senior 135.
This one, as
So
far as
is
the
this
top
another
side
one of your
goes,
son? Is it
pardon me.
Dawson? Dawson is your son as well?
Yeah, Dawson's my son as well. This bracket's unfortunate. I'm gonna start by saying that. Like, it's very top heavy. Um, if Dawson has the best draw out of this, And the only reason I say that is um, whether it's whoever comes out of this bracket, whether it's Chase Krantz, Aiden Arnett, or my son Dawson, um, they would have like they're gonna have to face each other. So at the end of the day, they got to beat each other to get to win it. But to put them all on one side, out of the bottom side, like whoever takes second in this bracket, I would have ranked them more at 4
Yeah.
as far as in the bracket goes. But you're gonna have Arnett versus Krantz in the quarters. Um, all three of them totally different styles. I think I give that edge to Arnett. Um, again, definitely a national level kid, very talented kid. Talked to his dad a lot. Dawson and Aiden have wrestled each other several times, always coming down to one score. Krantz beat Dawson over the summer at Grand River. Um, I believe 4-0, 4-1. I think it was 4-1. Dawson returned the favor just about a month ago at Battle for the Shield at a 4-0 win. Um, I think from a style perspective, the reason I give that like Arnett with the experience, again, national level kids, uh, placed and has beaten plenty of placers at Super 32, Tulsa, so on and so forth. Um, I think Arnett's scrambling in his top game. I think it'll be a little bit too much for Krantz. Uh, like I said, with Dawson and Arnett, Arnett had won the last time with Dawson, actually knocking him out of the championship side last year at 118. And then this year, the reason I went with Dawson, I know I'm probably thinking it's my, but that's actually not the case. The logic in that, again, these are always one score matches, phenomenal matches to watch. They Dawson hasn't had the success with Dawson's been competing nationally since he was 7, 8 years old as well, 6 maybe even. And but as far as this year goes, um, he made, which this is on me, made the mistake of going at walk around weight at VAC National Middle School Duels, but kept it close with a lot of Super 32 placers that compete at weights that Dawson's never even weighed in his life. I think that with I think the strength difference will be here is on Dawson's side. I give the edge of the scrambling definitely to Aiden on their feet. I give it to Dawson. And
So
I think the strength will be a deciding factor here.
yeah. So ideally, it would be Mack, Arndt, Krantz versus who would you if you had the perfect semis? Who would you pick?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
If you had a perfect semi, so ignore the bracket. I mean, because I've trained with Krantz too. Uh,
Yeah,
he's pretty
very tough
tough,
kid.
very tough, and he's very good athlete for 135
Yep.
pounds. So if you put uh, your own semis together, top four kids, who you got? Who's on the bottom? Who's on the bottom two? Who's on the bottom? Yeah, who you got making the finals? Let me look at that.
Um,
Layman, you got
yeah, I
Layman.
have Lehman come out of the bottom. I'm trying to be careful how I word this. Like, no disrespect, again, no disrespect to anybody. It's just that the bottom, whoever comes out of the bottom, to be honest with you, it could be anybody. It could be several different kids. I don't have the full bracket right in front of me on that one, but you have Layman, you have a kid out of Suplex, a very solid kid. Um, I just think these three, unfortunately, are leaps and bounds above the rest of the field. If Krantz came out of this side out of the bracket, there'd be no surprise there. There would not be an upset in any way. Very tough kid. If
All
Aiden
right.
wins, like I'm sure if you asked everybody across the state, they're all going to have their favorite here.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um,
So it
if
looks
I had
like
to
it's going to be
pick,
a good one.
pardon me.
When you have that type of situation, that means that there are going to be some good matches,
Yeah,
both
like
quarters and the semis. So
yeah, 100%. Like, and then with that said, though, like if Aiden does beat Dawson, they're all going to have wrestled each other. So it works out in that sense for the third, fourth place match. Um, if Dawson beats Aiden, then he won't see Krantz in the finals.
all right, great. All right, well, let's go to senior 144.
Uh, 144, I know you recognize the name on there,
Yep.
with Brendan Narden out of Elvers.
Yep.
Hang on one second. Sorry. Uh, 144, you're going to have Delgado versus Davis in the quarters. I give the edge to Otis Davis from Roosters. That said, Delgado did win or I'm sorry, I take that back. He was a runner-up to Tommy Banis last year. I believe at 126. He turned it on at the right time of the year. Delgado beat some very good kids to make it there. So they're like, again, this is when it counts. What you do during the year doesn't really matter. I mean, this is what you're training for. At the ages of these kids. Um, so I do have Davis coming out ahead though over Delgado in the quarters, but at the end of the day, then he feeds into Narden. I believe Narden's faced him. I believe Narden's faced everybody except Hill maybe in this bracket. Um, I'm not sure if he faced Delgado, but I think Narden here is the clear favorite. On the bottom side, I have Banis coming out. He will get one good match out of the semis with JT Hill. I believe they wrestled with Banis coming out ahead, but whether they have or haven't, I give that edge to Banis.
Now, how about Greenfield? Now, I think that name. So, Mike Greenfield was my assistant coach at Nebraska. So, I would
Hmm.
assume that this is Greenfield lineage. Do you know the family?
I don't know the family personally. No, I can't say that I do. I know the kid.
All right.
Sorry about that noise in the background. I don't know the family per se, but I'm aware of the kid.
Okay. We'll see. Yeah, I was just curious. I know some of these names out of the South, and obviously the South you never get to see. There's always a couple that come out
Yep,
and make sure that they're known. All right. So um, Banis, Narden in the finals.
correct.
All right.
I think that like that's one of my more confident picks with that bracket. Like I said, Banis will um, get a match in the semis, but minus that, I think he's the favorite to make the finals.
All right. And you have Narden winning, so we
Yeah,
agree
so
on that
Jim
one.
Mastny will be right this year with picking Arden pup
Yeah.
all years.
Yeah, he's looking good, and I think he's yeah. I mean, he's definitely capable. It's again, I think everything when I think about wrestling, it's always about whether or not you go out and execute and be in the wrestle well in the positions you want to be in, and wrestle well in the positions that you don't want to be in, and how to get out of those and stuff like that. I don't know. It's just so many things happen during a match, so I think he's definitely prepared. So
Yeah, in his position, he's really good. My son got to wrestle him twice this year. Narden won both matches, really good matches, real close matches. Um, Even when Dawson was in deep on a shot, I mean, his shot defense was good, and again, never out of position. Solid on bottom, just solid all three positions.
yeah, we'll look forward to it. All right, senior 154.
Uh,
Now, I imagine as we get higher into the weights, they're the percentage of people that can win goes down. Is that
that's accurate.
okay?
That's accurate.
Let's see what you got.
So for 154, this bracket, here's another good example of sometimes how you finish at regionals and sectionals, even if you don't win it. Like that buy is big. Getting a first round bye at state, everybody wants it. Totally understand it. But also on the flip side of that, you don't know how the brackets are going to be made for state. Um, and I think Amir Khalil is definitely one who benefited from that. He lost to Harper at sectionals. Um, Amir's another Bolingbrook kid, but he has a great draw. Like you have on the bottom side, Brock Janesco out of Yorkville. He's going to face Braden McKay from Tinley Park in the quarters. Both are very solid wrestlers. And then you also have Jesper Harper on the bottom side. Um, Harper, I believe, has beaten the other three kids just mentioned, which is why I went with Harper as far as winning this bracket. I don't see Amir losing anybody on the top side. And again, you couldn't ask for a better draw. And on that note, even if he's on the bottom side, whether it's Amir and Janesco and McKay and Harper, these are all close matches. I don't see anybody let's say, blowing anybody out, but you got to give the edge to Harper
Okay. So that was a sectional championship match?
between Amir Khalil and Jasper Harper.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So a rematch in the state finals. That could be cool.
Yeah, that I think it will be.
All right, cool. All right, senior 164.
164. You have Brian Goggins. I think he's gonna feed into Aiden Rodriguez in the quarters. Who will then feed into Landon McEmery in the semis. Um, I think on the top side, Aiden Rodriguez definitely comes out of that. I believe I picked him to win it actually as well. Uh, Gaga's been competing at a little bit lighter of a weight. Solid kid, won state last year. Um, but the jump from novice to senior in some cases could be big, especially in those upper weights. Um, I give the edge that definitely to Aiden. I don't know how competitive Brian can keep it with that, but it should be um, Rodriguez and McEmery in the semis.
Yeah.
As far as the bottom side, uh, Xavier Arroyo may be challenged by Aiden Larson, who feeds into Logan DeMarco, but I definitely give the edge to Arroyo. Uh, and then how I came up with the finals is just Rodriguez has already beat Arroyo, if I remember correctly, kind of handily. But again, anything could happen here. This is a weight that's worth noted. Um, and I should have mentioned it also with 103 as well. A lot of kids, sometimes the best kids aren't always going IK. Obviously, some kids go wrestle for their junior high so they can go IE. And there's nothing wrong with that. Hey, as long as they're wrestling, I'm happy for them. Like they got to do what's best for them. Um, to backtrack to 103, Barrett Speck and Mason Zoni would have been really cool to see in the state tournament for IK. They had made those brackets at 103 a lot deeper. The kid at 164 that I would have loved to see in this bracket because that's the weight he would have gone would have been Marco Casillas or Casillo out of Champaign Wrestling Club. Very tough kid, but as far as IK bracket goes, um, I give the edge to Aiden Rodriguez.
All right. All right, let's move. Senior
Okay.
176.
I look at 176 a lot like I look at 74. To be honest with you, it's great that these two are on separate sides of the bracket. They're by far the two best kids in the bracket. Isaac Barrientos trains out of Izzy Style now. Uh, Definitely a national level kid, probably competing right around walk around weight, doing a lot of national events at 210. You know, it's a lot of weight to give up, and he could do it. Eli Miller, I don't think a lot of people are aware of him. He wrestles from Southern White Bulldogs, I believe, or is it Granite
Granite
City? But
City.
he Granite City. Yeah, I apologize about that. Um, but he's out of the down south, and so I think he's going to fly under a lot of people's radar. Um, Isaac is favored to win that match, and I believe he's gonna. But I think that Eli Miller is the only kid in that bracket that will keep anything to a close decision, if a decision at all.
Okay. So this is a little wider gap. Barrientos versus Eli Miller in the finals with Barrientos winning.
Correct.
All right. All right, couple more. Senior 188.
This is kind of an unfortunate bracket a little bit, and the only reason I say that is I think the two best kids are on the bottom, and they might be the two best kids kind of by a long shot. They're going to meet in the semis. I think Maddox McRoberts comes out of the top, uh, but the having Max Purdy and Daniel Jackson in the semis. Daniel Jackson beat him early in the year, um, not too long ago actually. Max Purdy, I believe, won preseason nationals. I mean, both are very very good kids, very solid kids. Uh, it'd have been nice to see them on separate sides. So I believe your best match is going to be in the semis. If memory serves, I believe Daniel Jackson beat him 3-2.
All right. So Daniel Jackson gets to the finals over Maximus Purdy, and uh, and Jackson beats Maddox McRoberts from Sycamore in the finals.
Yeah, if like to be honest, like I said, Purdy and Daniel Jackson, that's a coin flip match.
Yeah.
The only reason I went with Daniel Jackson is because he beat him.
Yeah.
Um, that sums that up.
Okay. All right. 215.
215. I have, I believe, Clyde Nut against Noxamola. Um, I believe they're out of the same sectional. And when I looked over the field at first, there are some names missing that I would love to see in here. Again, when they win IE, and more power to them, they're gonna walk through IE. I can tell you that right now. But of the people I did see, at first I seen Noxamola, and I would have gave him the edge until I seen that somebody's beat him, which was at sectionals, which happened to be Clyde Nutt. Uh, on that note, though, they both have beat each other. So in that field, I went with Noxamola. The kids I mentioned that went IE, that I believe would have been the front runners at this weight, is Shane Falaska and Cameron Casey. Casey from down south. Shane Falaska as well. Both very solid kids. But back to the IK bracket, I give the edge to Noxamola.
Okay. All right. Let's go into so this 215 final weight class 275 heavyweight. This is always interesting because I
Yes,
mean
it is.
you're talking about a small group of people that should be 275 below eighth grade. Yeah, how's this one look? Is there any really special athletes in the heavyweight division this year?
See, that this is a little tricky. A lot of these matches can play out a lot of different ways. I mean, you have Bibbs on the top side, Olmsted on the bottom. When I first at first glance when I see this bracket, same thing. I noticed Olmsted did not win a sectional, hence losing to Bibbs. I believe that I picked Olmsted to win this bracket. Is that correct? I don't have that right in front of me.
Yep.
Yeah, so Olmsted's a very solid wrestler. Somebody on the top side is Kai Courtney, who was also beat Olmsted this year. Uh, I went with Olmsted in this bracket, and when I say that though, he's going to get a tough. He could potentially get a tough match right in the second round with a Colin Hughes. That'll be an interesting matchup. But my pick to this is definitely Olmsted to come out. Donovan Olmsted. He took second at Novice State last year, I believe. So he's been on the podium, high on the podium. In fact, been in the finals. So I don't see in the event that he does make the finals, I don't think he's going to be too nervous.
Okay. All right, great. And just to go to kind of summarize, right? So you were saying the winner at 126. Did you say 126? You thought that the winner of that bracket deserved the outstanding wrestler.
Yeah, no matter who comes out of that bracket, whether it's Dauber, Connors, Sawyer Valdez, Vincent Konecki, Skura, Ayler, Hanrahan, no matter what, the fact
That's
that I can mention that many names in that bracket, I think
yeah.
that's the only bracket I went that deep in. That and 110, no one's going to argue that those two brackets um, are the deepest. No one's going to argue that McClure's definitely the by far the front runner at 110, and I don't think anyone's going to argue at 126 that bracket is wide open.
Okay. And like I know you mentioned that Eddie Woody was, pretty far apart from the competition. Out of all the kids that you kind of think are clear-cut winners, who's the one that's like separated the furthest from the rest of their pack?
As far as winners or the
Yeah, like
or
who's just winning and they're just so much better. Like who's one of the best senior division
I go
wrestlers?
with Eddie Woody.
Okay.
I
So
think as far as his weight goes, it wouldn't surprise me if he pins or texts his way through. And to be perfectly honest with you, it's going to be whatever he wants to do.
yeah. So again, I appreciate you going into detail and like filling us in. Personally, I follow uh, local youth wrestling in the sense that who if I'm working out with a group of kids, then I know who they are, where they're competing, how they're doing in the season. But to really get a deep dive into what to expect at the kids state, specifically in the senior division, I think this is really cool. I don't think it's ever been done before as far as just previewing it. And, state of Illinois always has a group of eighth graders that come into high school and are looking right away, to win, right? So the number of four timers are going to continue to go up as the skill and talent of the off-season training, in-season training continue to go up. So it's nice to know some of these names um, before that happens. I want to know who's coming before they get there. So I appreciate you helping preview this, and I hope your picks are work out to be as accurate, at least for the ones that I wanted those guys to win. Um, but yeah, any last words? I think you did a great job.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you for having me on. I think Arnett's going to make noise right off the bat going into high school. I honestly do. You can say the same about McClure. I think some of these kids are still in seventh grade, if I'm not mistaken. So they got a year to even be that much better by the time they get into high school. But like I said, Woody, I would definitely go as the one clear cut person to handle everybody.
Great. All right. Well, Jeremy Mack, thanks for doing this, and we will catch up after the weekend concludes and see how that preview panned out. And yeah, thanks again.
Thank you for having me on.